So let's start with, in 2017, you wrote a Medium blog post on Michael Jordan. I'm going back right now. This is deep research, man. This was about the principles which allowed Michael Jordan to achieve greatness. Okay, work back in your memory to this point, almost a decade ago or whatever. Now, one of these principles was always have your hands up because the ball could be coming your way any second. I thought that was awesome. Can you tell me a little bit more about that principle, why you chose to include that in the blog post?
Yeah, I think, going back to that point in time, I love sport. I draw a lot of what I do in the business world to like a sports field, and I love the NBA. So that's sort of where that comes from to start with. Now, particularly with that particular reference, more comes down to like opportunities come up, and when those opportunities arise, you should be ready. And so from memory, I haven't looked back at that blog post probably since I posted it.
Sure.
That would be what I'm getting at, is like, particularly in the startup world, as you will well know, like the opportunities come at you when you, maybe sometimes when you don't expect it.
Yeah.
The key thing is to be ready for when those happen. I mean, you can even look at like an obvious one, like when COVID happened. Yeah. There were some startups that did really, really well at the back of that. Things like Zoom, Miro, the ones that allowed for asynchronous communication or remote working, because they were ready and ready for that wave. That's at like a macro level, but like on a day-to-day basis, there are things that come up that might get in the way of like, here are the things that you might have wanted to do with your day. But if you're ready for those like micro opportunities when they happen, then over time those build into something pretty awesome in a lot of cases. So that's I think the point that I'm getting at with that particular blog post. Again, I was probably 24 at the time, and trying to seem more, more wise than I am.
Sure, I liked it. I thought that was a good analogy. You know, COVID, most people were completely taken by surprise, everybody, but a certain percentage of people were ready for that opportunity. It reminds me of NVIDIA with the whole AI rise at the moment. You know, they've been doing GPUs for a long, long time, well below Intel, and now they were ready. They had their hands ready for the ball. AI came at them. ChatGPT is here, and then boom, they just kind of took off. So, you know, I appreciate what you're saying there. I do like sharing principles, and another principle that you shared a couple of years ago on Twitter, actually. You wrote that, this might be again your 24-year-olds trying to be wise, but you wrote, we are not defined by what happens to us, rather we are defined by how we react. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, on a day-by-day basis, there are a whole bunch of good and bad things that happen to us, and how we respond, I think, when those bad things happen is more typically. Those are the things that, based on the quote, I think really define us. So, if we use that same example of what when something like COVID hits, okay, this is a bad thing in a lot of ways, but okay, how can we respond in a way that is going to be advantageous to people around us, to us? Yeah. But I'll use a more real example. I have run my own startup. Yes. I have got to the point of selling my own startup, but before I sold that startup, we had to close that business down. So this is not a glamorous like exit where you go and then buy a boat and sail around the Mediterranean for years. Like, that's not what this is. This was very much a sale of technology that worked, but the business itself had failed. Yeah. At that point in time, when we made the decision that this was a business that we should close down, we didn't close down that business because we ran out of cash. We didn't close down that business because there was some other catastrophic problem. It was, we didn't believe that this business was going to work anymore based on how it had been set up. And the best thing to do for everybody was to close the business down,
Sure.
try and sell the IP, give the remaining money back to investors if there's any left.
Yeah.
And that decision was incredibly hard. And in the wake of so there's a whole bunch of things that led to that particular decision, and then we had the choice of okay, this is a very, very hard decision to make.
Yeah.
We can make this now, or we can do what actually would probably be the easier option, is to downsize the team, make this cash last longer, and just almost delay the inevitable. But that would, and just slowly trickle off, and eventually people just wouldn't hear about us, and then it would just sort of die a very slow, painful death.
Sure.
Now the harder option was to do what we ended up going with, and that was closing the business down. And then it was also that equally hard thing was to talk about it. And that was how we chose to react. And this is obviously a good example of it, I think, because I had something very painful happen to me, and I did something that also was going to cause me more pain, was to talk about it openly, and in doing so, hopefully help a lot of people, which turns out it did. And the amount of messages that I received, and I still receive, in accordance with the fact that I shut a tech startup down publicly, apparently the first to do so, or to do it in that way in Australia and New Zealand, led to a lot of good. Not directly, obviously, for the investors in that particular business, but for the ecosystem more generally. And so I think that comes down to that, that quote of I got hit with a massive uppercut, and didn't pull out of the fight, was still keep going in a way that makes sure that you, last to the end of the round, for lack of a better analogy.
Yeah. No, I like that. I mean, a lot of people would, just let it vanish quietly. They don't want the fear of looking like something's failed publicly. But in reality, being vulnerable, being authentic, being genuine in public, that's what allows you really to connect to people at the end of the day. And people get it the complete wrong way around, I find, in the social media world that we live.
Yeah, totally. I think there are different times when, on the vulnerability part, there are different times when it's, say, even with your teams, if you're thinking specifically about the team that you run within a tech startup, there are times when being vulnerable is really important. There are times when also you probably want to dilute some of the vulnerability, because you need to be a source of strength for your team. And it's deciding on when and where to do that. Always be authentic.